Loris, I'm 23, and I've always been surrounded by girls. In drama club at school, at home, where I had 3 older sisters, and at my job. After all, I'm a security guard in the woman's state prison, and every day I am surrounded by several hundred women with different stories. I ended up falling in love with one of them. I'm going to tell you about what came of it and how we happened to meet. I will never forget how I first found myself alone with these women in baggy jumpsuits. It was my first day on the job. My partner, who had worked there for more than 10 years, had been making scathing jabs about my appearance all morning, calling me Justin Bieber. He kept doing it so that I wouldn't even think about making eyes at anyone, because any relationship with prisoners was forbidden, but I already knew that. Before dinner, I was sent to recount all the prisoners in Block A. It was a large room divided by partitions into many tiny rooms without doors. All the prisoners lined up in front of their beds and were checking out the newbie. Most of all that day, I remembered 2 of them. One that scared me to death and one that I unexpectedly liked. The first put a hand on my shoulder and winked slyly with her one good eye. They called her Old Woman because she had been there the longest. I told her to get back immediately, but I said it so timidly that internally I scolded myself for showing weakness. But by the end of the rounds, I had completely forgotten about it, because in the last cell, I saw Loris. I read her name on the badge. If I had met her in ordinary life, I would have definitely asked her out on a date. The next day, I saw her in the hallway. She smiled at me, and I involuntarily smiled back. Then I became angry with myself. For the whole next month, I tried to not even look at her and even avoided her, but Loris was always there, or she would come up to me with some kind of stupid question. Gradually, it became a habit. We would smile at each other when no one was looking, exchange words when no one was listening. During room inspections, I secretly began leaving little surprises for her, chewing gum under the pillow and a bar of chocolate under the blanket. Sometimes we managed to meet in the courtyard behind the church and talk privately for about 5 minutes. Soon I caught myself thinking that I was only coming back to work for these encounters. I really wanted to make her comfortable. Loris told me that she often spent time in the library in the mornings and that there was almost never anyone else around. One morning on my way to work, I stopped for the best donuts in the city and delicious coffee. I knew that she had been longing for those even more than Big Macs or pizza. Loris told me later that it was the best breakfast she had had in a year. One day, she asked me to send her a postcard. On my day off, I chose the cutest one I could find and wrote that I couldn't wait for the day when I could give it to her in person. I signed the card with my initials in reverse order and sent it without a return address. The most difficult thing for me was not exposing our correspondence. But one day, I almost ruined everything. My partner, Flint, as usual, had begun poking fun at the prisoners. He mentioned Loris. I could barely restrain myself from making him take his words back. It's not easy for me to admit it, but sometimes I even thought about arranging for her to escape so that she no longer had to live in this dump with all these people. Although neither of the 2 of us had made any mistakes, one day, the worst happened. That day, we received an order to completely search every room. All of the women at the time were in the yard. I searched Loris's bed. In a box under the bed, I found my postcard and couldn't help but smile. But there were other cards too, more than 20, and all without a return address. I began comparing the initials of the names on those that were signed with the names of other wardens. I found more than 12 matches. I couldn't even bring myself to ask Loris for an explanation, and I quit 2 weeks later. Now I'm looking for a job that I like and where I work with men. I just want to forget about Loris. Thank you for listening to my story.